Welcome back to Inside Prediction Markets. We got Henry and myself here. We're gonna got three big things. We're gonna be recapping Bet Bash 2, and also we have a great guest, a Hitman. He is formerly a tout, no longer a tout. We'll see why he's made the decision, and he's also gonna be reviewing some NFL. Very, very sharp guy on the NFL. So I'd love to hear his opinions on both how the preseason has gone and how he expects the season to go.
Yeah, I mean, first news story for me this week, if we're leading with our three stories, is Kalshi, as of Wednesday, is introducing a 3.5% maker fee on
Yeah,
RFQs.
coefficient, not
Yeah,
3.5%.
coefficient into their world famous formula. And also kind of snuck into this, I wouldn't say snuck, but more in the weeds. Um, they are removing the post only type for parlay orders.
Can
So
you explain what that means for not nerds?
yeah, so when parlays transact via RFQs on Kalshi, there is an underlying order book. And some people would do this thing where they would actually post what they want on the order book, then send an RFQ through, a quote comes through, and the quote actually, even though the quoter thinks they're a maker, ends up taking the standing liquidity. And so they have to pay all the fees. Um, so what Kalshi has decided to do is say, we're no longer letting you use a post-only quote type, which would prevent this from happening to you. But on the other side, if somebody's standing order has only been there for 5 seconds or less, we're not going to let it go through, which is a great policy until the order's been there for 6 seconds, and then it doesn't protect you at all. Um, so yeah, I mean,
Wait.
yeah,
And understand. Maybe I'm not understanding that. How's the order if they're not going to let you? So you're saying people can do the resting liquidity still thing and not?
they can. So the post only used to let you protect yourself from it. That would say, hey, if I run into standing liquidity, just cancel my order. Now you're no longer allowed to do that. And the only protection you have is somebody has to put their order on the book for at least 5 seconds before they then ping you with an RFQ. And so, where I was raised, Chris, this whole gaming things with the order book to dodge fees would be under the umbrella of market manipulation. Like, we would not do this. So I'm surprised that, I mean, I feel like people should be getting kicked off the platform for doing it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's certainly something we would
How
never
does
dabble
someone
in.
dodge fees in this new world?
Well, you got to, if you really want to, you will check the order book before you send any quotes and see if there's standing liquidity you're going to collide with, um, which is a pain. But that maybe should even bring us back to the main thing, which is fees going up. It's going to be a lot of width on these parlays. But they trade, the execution prices are pretty tight.
Yeah.
They do a lot of volume. They're having success with the products. They're milking it. They're grinding every last cent out of it they can.
People are saying I've seen all this like, oh my god, RFQs too competitive. Instead, which is what I don't understand. The market makers, are they just going to take it? Like, no, they're not going to take it. Like, they're just going to lower the cost. Like, because if they could take it, they would have quoted tighter before and gotten more volume. It
Oh,
doesn't
sure,
make any
yeah.
sense. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying like how she's doing anything wrong or bad, but just all I'm saying is like I don't see any difference as putting increasing take fees by 0.35 or adding those on the make fees. Maybe I'm too naive, but that's just my general view. We literally see if you quote tighter, you will get more volume. It is so deep and so like competitive that every percentage point that you are tighter, you get more volume. So for us, like I don't see why we would change our behavior in any way other than just pass the fee entirely onto the consumer, which is fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if anything, it possibly paves the way for a kind of make fee rebate program that doesn't
Maybe,
exist with
yeah.
this. But who knows what directionally they're thinking.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we'll see what the impact is on volume pretty soon.
Yeah. Story two. An absolute banger of a game. Underdog posted a crash style games for like, is it just pitches? For
It's
MLB.
a full at bat. So Crash Game, for those who don't know, is one of the oldest and most classic iCasino games where the value of payouts goes up exponentially but crashes at random. And some absolute 180 IQ Giga Chad over at Underdog says, "Hey, you know what already kind of fits this time distribution is the length of an at bat." So they've created a crash game that is actually settled on the duration of an at bat, um, which is pretty brilliant, to be honest. Now, at the same time, they're going deeper into prediction markets. Responsible trading is a big topic. It's important to not be making casino style games, and they've gone and done this. What are you going to do?
Well, this is not a casino. This is you're predicting an at bat. I just despise the accusation that this is a casino style game. Um,
I don't think it lives on the PM product either. It's not
okay.
clear from the announcement, but I would assume not. It would be wild if it did.
A good exchange you might have heard of, Novig, has passed Rothera for 7-day trailing prediction market volume, um, which is pretty cool. They
What's
just went
Rothera for those who've never heard of it? Doesn't sound like a big
Robinhood's
deal.
Robinhood's exchange.
Yeah, Robinhood.
So pretty cool that they're actually ahead of another big player. I mean, I think Nadex. What is Nadex? I keep saying Nadex. Is that
Yeah, Nadex is I think it's the official name of the CME affiliated exchange.
oh, okay.
So it's like a more traditional actual derivative shop out of Chicago that like FanDuel volume feeds into in some other places. I don't know.
Got it.
It's one of these. There's no consumer product on NADEX, but there's a bunch of FCM brokers into it.
But I think having seeing this, I think what you know I've noticed at least, where in my opinion, I've seen is like a traditional like prediction market exchange with a good UI and everything like that. Novig has firmly established themselves as third right now. It is Kalshi 1, Poly 2, Novig 3, and basically everyone else is I don't even know what they're doing, just playing for hope, I guess.
Well,
And
pride comes before the fall, but
yeah.
it's a good start. Let's keep it
And in 2
rolling.
weeks, and not even 2 weeks, they've already done this, so, you hope the volume keeps ripping, and, it's good for everyone.
All right. Up next in the OpticOdds hot seat, we have our old friend Hitman here to talk about NFL. Real casual sports.
In the OpticOdds hot seat, we have Hitman, who I've known for quite a while now. He is formerly an NFL tout and now no longer an NFL tout. And to show what a grinder he is, he asked to do this late in the day so we could wait for the opening odds on PPH on NFL preseason, and then said, "Hang on a second, I got to push it 30 minutes more because they're just opening." So he's got to grind. One of the, if not the biggest grinder that I know. So thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, so if you wanna know how my day went today, um, I woke up early in the morning and I had to get to a few, casinos that were taking bets from me on NFL preseason. So my wife drove me because I can't drive myself, because if I drive myself, I gotta be on the phone. I that it's a long drive also. So she drove me with my 3-month-old son in the car screaming. I had to sit in the back seat with him to keep him calm. And we probably did about 4 hours in the car just getting dropped off at some casinos that would take some decent sized bets from me. And then I sat in front of the screen and waited for paper headouts to open preseason for like 6 hours and did nothing. So yeah, it's quite the life we got over here in August in the thick of football season.
So I was always a fan when I would go to Parks Casino in the parking lot. They would have these signs that say, "Do not leave children in your car." And I didn't know who those were for. And now I know.
Well, yeah, my wife
Yeah,
remained in the vehicle with my son, thankfully. So
yeah, that's good.
so yeah, we you don't have to call like DIFUS or anything on
It
us.
is
Yeah.
funny because you were describing the exact setup of like tons of very sad scenarios where like the kid in the casino parking lot,
I know.
we
It's
were
not that funny, but
No,
Good
yeah, he's
thing.
well taken care of. Trust
Yeah.
me. So
He's well fed. All right, I'm looking through the board trying to figure out what you've steamed already. Is it Houston Texans? Were you on that one?
no, I was not on that.
Okay. I won't dig any further.
So,
Yeah, I mean, if I start saying the stuff I bet now, like I feel like some people just might bet it at terrible numbers, right?
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, I bet a few games today.
that's fair. If you don't mind, Hitman, for those who don't know you, could you give like a brief background about you and how you got into the space and why you started touting, and then now why you stopped touting?
Yeah, so I'll start with how I got into betting. So I think I've told this story like once before, but I was just like a huge sports fan. Like I just knew everything like related to NFL, like before I even was betting on sports. And I think it was like 2012 or 2013. My wife's uncle was saying to me, like, "Hey, do you want an account to bet on and everything?" And I was said, "Sure." And he was started telling me about how nobody wins. He's like, "Yeah, we've been through this for 20 years. Nobody's ever won." And like the cocky idiot that I was telling them like, "Oh, I know so much about sports. I'm gonna win." And what ended up happening pretty much like like a lot of people say like how they lost early, kind of like really early on. Like I was just really competitive in trying to figure this stuff out. And I was able to figure out like really early, just like the basic concept of like, oh, I'm a Miami Heat fan and LeBron James got ruled out at the time. And I'd go on the account and like Dwayne Wade, I'd be like, oh, like Dwayne Wade, they're not adjusting the points on him. And I'd look at maybe like a Five Dimes or somewhere that had like a semi efficient line a few minutes after the news broke and everything. And I noticed that like the line's like 2, 3 points different or something like that. So kind of early on, I figured that out. I was betting like $20 a game at the time. Year one, I won like $1,100. And they told me, they're like, we had a side bet on if I'd win or not. And they were like, nobody can win a second year in a row, 0%. I upped my units to like 100. And at this time, I figured stuff out on this slow moving paper head. Like, for example, they would have WWE wrestling on it. And I liked wrestling. Like, I would watch the pay per views as a fan. And I would go on like Five Dimes, and like a wrestler would be like minus 110 on this paper head. And I'd go on Five Dimes, and like at a certain point in the day, like the wrestler would steam to like minus 4,000. And I'd go on the account and it would still be minus 110. So this is stuff that like I figured out very early. I ended up winning like that second year, and this was my only account at the time. I ended up winning like $10,000 or something, betting like 100 or something a game. And that was my first account that I got thrown off of at that moment also, and then kind of had to figure out what I'm going to do from that point on. But it just kind of like kept growing from there. Like each year I made more money. I was a phys ed teacher. And then when it became legal, I kind of had an idea already on how to win. And I was just getting better each year and everything, just picking up a few little things. And well, yeah, when it became legal, I made the decision I got offered a job to tout because I was posting pics on a forum at that time, the pregame forums. And like I got recognized as somebody that was like doing well on it. So they offered me to tout, and I said, like, this is the best thing ever. I never planned on being a pro bettor at all. But I was like, well, listen, I have this teaching job. You know, maybe eventually I'll make 100K a year once I max out at this teaching job. I can maybe make 50, 60 grand selling my picks, whatever. And I'm making some money on the side. Like I'm set for life, pretty much is what I was thinking. Then I started making more and more betting, and I quit the teaching job, said I'm just going to tout and continue betting. And it kind of just kept growing from there. I'd like to say I was one of the touts when I was touting that did things the right way. I think the biggest, I know every tout says that, but I think one of the biggest indicators, like when I posted my farewell, message. Like usually when a tout says that, like you get a lot of like FUs
Yes.
at the time, like goodbye to this tout. I mean, one guy wrote a comment in it that had me dying laughing. He said, "This is my 9/11. I blame Joey Knish." I don't know why he said he blames Joey Knish, but I felt like people were pretty upset because I did try to do it the right way. I was giving out props only on game day, which is kind of unheard of at this time with most services going at low limits when they open and everything. So yeah, that's kind of how I started touting. And at the time when I started, I didn't realize it had as bad of a reputation as it did. I kind of tried to stay low or keep a low profile when I was touting because I understand the criticism for pretty much all of them. So, but yeah, that's kind of the story of how I got started in that and how I got started betting.
Yeah, and I can say as someone who has moved for Hitman last year, I can confidently vouch this man crushes and wins in a big capacity. So I guess that leads me to my next question is to why stop now? If you were doing so well touting and stuff, like why
Yeah,
stop?
I mean, I was selling the packages 1,000 a year. If I did it again this year, it was probably going to go up to at least 1,500, 2,000. So like, and you could look at my Telegram, how many customers I had and have a rough guess of how I was doing, how much I was making with that. But, I always said that I was a better before a tout. Like part of the reason that I waited to give stuff out until game day is because I had to get down on stuff myself. And I had to get down on stuff without destroying the market, which is a lot of stress. Like I had to rely on people that I had a lot of trust with. I said, like, can you bet this stuff quietly? Going to kiosks and trying to bet anonymously on stuff. So getting the money down was it was a job pretty much. I was still able to get a lot down and tout to where like it wasn't destroying. It wasn't like one or the other for me. Like everyone says with touts, they're like, oh, well, just bet your stuff and you'll make a lot more. Well, like I was betting, like Flup, we were betting at points together and I was betting a lot and like I was doing well, but I kind of figured like, you know what? Like I had a really good system at balancing the both. And I felt like I could have done it again this year and balanced it and been fine. But it was just so stressful. Like, first of all, like the anger of me waiting till game day on stuff and liquidity and losing the amount of bets that I would lose when like another service goes on like a Thursday when I'm waiting till Sunday, that was killing me. The stress of losing money for people, like if I lose for myself, I really don't give a crap because I know I'm just going to get it back. But losing for others just really upsets me. And I mean, winning for people though makes me feel good. But the anytime you're losing was tough. The difficulty for customers to get on bets, it got so hard at the end. Like I know at least a few sports books that were subscribing to me. There was one major sports book that was subscribing to me that would lower their limits like 75% when I would just send a warning message that a preseason play was incoming. They would lower all 16 games by like 75% and basically weren't taking anything on it. So it was just getting to be a massive pain. And, I never say never that I'll do it again. Like maybe this year I'll be like, you know what? Like I'm getting down the same amount of money that I was last year. And why not take the extra X amount of dollars I'm making touting? But I think for now I'm done, but never say never. I'm sure if I come back, I'll get shit for it. But yeah, at the moment, I'm done with it.
Did prediction markets play any factor into this decision with you thinking you can get more down?
Yes. It was definitely a plus because again, like last year, like I feel like I have an edge on day of the game props, which like a lot of people can't say. That's a reason that like a lot of like even like services are going literally as soon as the openers come out. And it was tough to get down on stuff early, especially because like what I learned early is like I'd put out these big orders, it would spook the market and the line would just get destroyed and I'd get barely anything. So I did a lot of my stuff day of the game and there was a lot of good fills I was getting and stuff that wasn't destroying the market last year. And this year, I just think it's going to get better and better. Like I loved using Novig. So that was good last year, a few other places. And Yeah, it definitely played a factor. I'm really excited about what the prop market could look like next year, especially I've seen with like preseason for that early. I haven't been doing much at all, like 5 days out on the prediction markets, but like day of the game, like there was live bets that had like 100 grand in liquidity and everything. Like day of the game, like there's some really good stuff out there. So I'm really excited, and yeah, it played a factor in just being able to get more money down.
Yeah, we've been watching these games and we're trying to figure out drive by drive who's coming in next, where do we want to open? Like it's so insanely hard to get a good number up, and you see that there's tons of in-play liquidity.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's also such a big, and this is where it goes to like the idiots that say like, "Oh, why do you bet on preseason, Henry?" Like that conversation drives me nuts. It's like there's edges where like one team input, like the algorithm is based off what the closing number was, and what a team has done with their lineups is just throw out the algorithm on what the pre-flop line was. Like it just doesn't, it's just, if you, I
Yeah,
hate to say like the phrase, like if you know ball, but like if you know ball on some of this stuff, on what the algorithm's missing on like some of these quarterback rotations and stuff, you can do pretty well.
it's like, I mean, in preseason, you've got Josh Allen starting, and then he gets back to Kyle Allen or Shane, I don't even know how to say his last, Buscelli or whatever. And I in the fourth quarter, when they're leading the game-winning drive or whatever, if they're using the preseason, they're using the pre-flop line. It's ridiculous. It's not Josh Allen leading a drive. It's the shit quarterback that's never gonna play a snap in the
Yeah, but
NFL.
again, it's also just all about like there's each game. It's kind of, it's different because like there might be a team that their fourth string quarterback is just so freaking bad. Like it might be that like it's just fourth stringers where you just think like this third stringer is way better than this fourth stringer or something. Like I remember like watching like Jack Plummer for the Panthers in past preseasons. And anytime he was in at the end of the game, I was just like, there's no chance that the Carolina Panthers can move the ball effectively at any point for the remainder of this game. So it's, so yeah, there's a lot of edges with it, in my opinion.
My favorite, I've said this one before, my favorite is the down 8, and they're using the actual NFL algorithm, and it's like less than 3 minutes left. The team down 8 is actually like plus 600, which makes no sense on, sports books because
Because they can only
they
tie.
they can only tie. Like you could just
Yeah.
bet the minus 1,000 or minus 1,500 at a complete free roll because they can't win. There's just no outcome where they can't lose. There's no outcome where they lose.
Honestly, you might be giving away too much, Fluff. We
Yeah.
might want to end it here.
Well, yeah. I'll go on, Henry. You had something?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to ask a little bit more about how you're engaging with prediction markets. So it sounds like last year you were mostly working on your own, putting things in manually. Um, have you partnered with anybody or considered partnering with anybody as the whole ecosystem kind of grows and gets more
So,
sophisticated?
so last year, actually, I had two guys that I
Oh,
worked
okay.
with a lot that I was sending them the plays that I like, and they were handling the predict. We kind of went over the way it had to be. Like, listen, we can't post this type of stuff because it'll spook them out. Like, they just know prediction markets, and
Right,
they were
right.
kind of handling it for me because I'm trying to take as much of a step back as humanly possible from the betting and just relying on like just going balls to the wall handicapping and having some other people help me and everything. And like the prediction markets, like it was it was just so much more work for me to try to actively manage like 40 props at once and everything. So obviously like I take less money because I'm giving a cut to whoever's helping me on them, but just saves me a lot of time. So that's kind of how I handled it. So I don't have like, I'm not as fluent in them myself with like the user experience, but I am active on them in some shape or form.
So at this point, going into the season, are you changing how you prioritize your time, thinking about, okay, I'm playing these in different markets, so I want to think about these a different way? Or is it I'm putting all my energy into handicapping, having numbers ready, knowing what I'm looking for, and more than ever, I'm going to rely on my team to do the execution for me.
Yeah, it's kind of a ladder.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like out. Like years ago, like when legalization started, I was massive into the account game, and like, but now I'm kind of out of that. Not out of it, but just not putting in the same effort that I used to put in, and I'm kind of just relying on other people. And like that's one thing like I'd say about touting is so many people, just to go back to that, like so many people talk about like what is the what could possibly be the benefit. But I had so many people reach out to me over the years saying like, oh, I subscribe to you, or like I know that you're moving the market a ton. Like, can I help you get down on this stuff? And like a lot of people that found me just from touting. Now, like in all likelihood, I probably listen, I think I would have been found anyway by some people, but at least like early on when I was a nobody, like 7 years ago or whatever, like there was people that I guess figured out early that I had an idea of what I was doing, and they reached out to me like, "Hey, I think your stuff is actually pretty good. Like, do you want help betting some stuff?" And they were like, I don't know how early they would have found me or anything. So, and you know what? Like, there's other touts also. Like, I subscribe to maybe like 10 touts that like I think have an edge or have some type of value, at least to me. Maybe not to like your average better because the lines move so fast or whatever, but I think they have value to me. And like some of them have been like guys that like I thought were low bankrolled. And like I reached out to them about like, hey, like your stuff is really good. And it was before like the market even noticed about them. And I was like, I think I could help you on stuff. So that's one thing. Like, listen, I get it. Like 99% of, I don't want to turn this into like a tout sympathizer episode, but, and I get 99% of the time, like it's not right. It's scammers or just guys that don't win and everything. But I do think there are some cases where it could be beneficial in some ways. So yeah, it's kind of my spiel on that.
It's kind of funny because when you think about touting, you talked about, right, the trade-off of, oh, I could do this myself, but maybe there's upside to being public about it because then people know who you are and you get a reputation and good things come from that.
You know what?
And
Like it's also like, Henry, sorry to cut you off, but it's like there could be a day also like that I make enough money to where, and I have a kid. I want another kid. I want to be able to be a part of their life. And it's the way it is now. It's a lot of work, but there could be a point later in life, you know, where I'm just like, you know what, like maybe betting for whatever reasons drying up, outs are drying up, and I'm like, you know what, like I just want to. I'm still going to put in the work to give out picks that I think are good, but I'm not putting as much energy in the betting, which is a full-time job on itself and everything. Like you never know. So like, I think there's sometimes that it could not be a scumbag thing to do to tout, but again, like I agree, like for the most part, it's mostly a cesspool.
well, Chris and I have had the same conversation around like, okay, so sometimes we'll go on the show and we'll say things that kind of give away how we think about this process or things that we could think could like really help other groups win market making. But then the trade-off is people know who we are, hopefully have some level of respect for us, and it helps us with attracting talent or raising capital or doing all these other things that are important to our business, right? So it's a trade-off. And I'm like, oh, we get to make that trade-off and we never have to worry about like another market making group coming to us and being like, hey, I tried layered strategies and I lost my role, you piece of shit. You know, like nobody would do that to us like they would to a town. Like, oh, that's really fortunate that it's not like, you know, your managerial style didn't go over well with my reports, you know.
Yeah. And it's funny, like too, when I was touting, it was always very important to me to like give out plays and everything, but never give away like the process and stuff. And that's just because if you give away, I think it was Shipper who said on a podcast that like when he would go on pods, he's like, yeah, I'm giving away like C-level stuff that like a lot of people can figure out on their own and everything, but you never give away like the A-level stuff. And like I see some other touts that will like just go out and they'll give away like their whole process on how they came to a certain play. And I'd say like, what the hell are you doing? Like you give out the pick and you shut up. Like you don't say how you got to this conclusion, because someone like me is going to listen to it. And if it's something, I'm going to just reverse engineer it and play it and figure it out how to play it myself. So yeah.
Well, if you don't mind now, I think can we transition to I would love your NFL thoughts
Yep.
overall. I have a funny note first. A couple weeks ago, I was trying to do some preseason work. I spent like a day or two. I'm like, okay, I have some like rough power ratings, and I sent it to him. I was like, what do you think? And he said, yeah, if your numbers were on a real book, I'd probably fly halfway across the world to bet at that book. So that's what he thought of my numbers. So I'll let the expert talk. And if you don't mind, do you have any teams that you're like high on, low on, or we had preseason thoughts? However you want to take it.
Listen, it's not just that I would have done that to Flop, but it was like the entire market. Like it was so off market, some of this stuff. And I was like, listen, if you're right, then like you're gonna make a lot of money on a lot of that stuff. Cause there was some stuff I was like, Flop is out of his mind. But what was it? You said the teams I'm higher on, Flop?
I guess in general to market right now, would you say like 3 to 4 teams or 2 to 4 teams, whatever you're
Two I'm higher on and two I'm lower on.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a little bit higher on, and again, this might be like maybe like a point versus market or something like that, but I'm a little bit higher on New England. I know that like a lot of people talk about just the schedule last year, what a joke it was, and they had the easiest postseason run of all time, and they weren't even that impressive in a lot of these postseason games against teams that like, you know, Houston had the Stroud implosion and Denver had their quarterback hurt and everything. But I really think that they've improved. Like I didn't think last year's roster was very good at all. And I think that the receiver room upgrade that they have is going to be very significant. I think that the offensive line is going to get better just based off Will Campbell not being hurt towards the end of the year and him being in his second year, and plus the draft. And I'm just also just a fan year 2, Rabel, and that like the stuff that Rabel did in Tennessee, like the way he overachieved with some of those teams. I'm just a big Rabel fan. I mean, I love his game theory, like some of the stuff that he does in games. Like if you remember, like he reminds me of like a Madden player at times. Like remember like when, I don't know if you remember, but they played the Bucks earlier this year and he was taking knees at the end of the first half with like a minute 30 left from 1st and goal from the 1. So he wouldn't give them the ball back and he'd take off like a minute and then he would just try the sneak on 3rd and goal from the 1 and get it or whatever. Like some of that stuff that he did, I'm just a fan. So like, I think their roster's improved, and I think there's also a path where Drake May is even better than last year, and he arguably should have been the MVP last year. Jacksonville's another team I'm a little higher.
Wait, before we get off New England, I want to ask one thing. So we were having a conversation about New England last week, and I asked, how do you price in the Rossini thing impacting Vrabel? And everybody laughed and moved on. But honestly, do you do any kind of discounting of your being high on Vrabel for the fact that he has this huge controversy hanging over his head, or do you think that's just a complete nothing?
You know what? I think the timing of it was very good. That like it's been what,
middle of the offseason,
time the season starts. It's gonna be what, 4 months since he basically got caught with infidelity. Like if it was happening in season, like I could definitely see a path to where like, yeah, Mike Rabel's going to be working less at his job because he has to go to counseling with his wife or have these conversations, or his mind is somewhere else. Like the fact that we're so far removed from it, I really didn't. I don't think it's that big of a factor. But if it would have been, I thought maybe.
I'm a huge Rabel fan as well. My favorite Rabel moment, if you remember, this is like 4 or 5 years ago when he was on the Titans. They're down by 1 versus the Texans, and he intentionally, it was like they got a 2nd and 1. He intentionally throws 12 men off. Even gave it the like, started yelling at his player for not being so sloppy. Get the intentional down. And the announcers had no idea what was going on. They criticized him for being sloppy, and it was like that play won him the game.
And like there was other times like they would purposely delay a game. Like I forgot what it might have been, like purposely getting false starts in the 4th quarter when they were about to punt, which would make the clock run for another 30 seconds or whatever it was. Like, I just think his game theory is really good, and players play hard for him. And I just felt like in Tennessee, he overachieved a ton with that roster. And he overachieved last year with New England, despite the schedule, which was a joke, but I thought he overachieved with that roster also.
So you said Jaguars are also high on?
Yeah, it's another coach that I'm really high on. Like, a lot of people have talked about like Liam Cohn as if there is a next Sean McVay or whatever, next Ben Johnson, like I could see him maybe being in that, maybe not the McVay tier, but like he could be in that Ben Johnson tier of play caller. I think Travis Hunter, like getting him back in here too. That's a guy that like I'm just so
He wasn't that impressive year one though.
I don't know. I mean, he was starting to really, if you remember his last game against the Rams before he got hurt, he had like 7 catches for like 100 something yards or whatever. And I think they're just so deep at wide receiver. He's going to be full-time corner and like a 4th receiver, but it just goes to show like how deep they are in the skill position guys right now and everything. And I'm just high on Liam Cohn a little bit. Like, I just think that they should be a little bit closer to Houston than what the market has.
He got clowned when he first got signed for not carrying himself well with the press, for being kind of a goofball, and I feel like people have not updated from that on the fact that he's a sophisticated young coach.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, there are players or not players, coaches like, McDaniels of, now Chargers, like he's someone that probably carried himself that not like a head coach and more like a coordinator, and got fired and probably ran a bad locker room because of it. And, while he obviously deserves it, an offensive coordinator job, McDaniels is top 5 OC, probably top 10 play caller, if you include, the Shannys and McVays of the world. But, he, because of his, like, how he handled himself, he probably cost him a job.
I mean, I thought they were like, even like Miami, when you talk about McDaniel, I thought they were a very soft team.
Yeah.
And like, especially like the fact that they had to fire, I believe they fired Vic Fangio after, and like a lot of it was because like the locker room hated Vic Fangio and said he was too tough on them. And then he goes to Philadelphia and he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. So like, I could kind of see that with McDaniel, but at the same time, like, he is just so freaking good as a play caller, in my opinion, that he's probably worth getting another shot. I mean, what he did with Tua, who I don't think is very good. Like, I don't think could be understated, but yeah, I could see that flop.
So what about 2 teams you're low on?
Washington. I bet them under 7.5 wins. But I was betting this before the Tunsil injury. I think I got like average price like plus 115.
Oh, you got it before the Tunsil injury?
Yeah, I think right now it's like plus 100. I haven't looked at it in a little while, but I still think that's okay, to be honest. First of all, I think that Dan Quinn is probably the top lame duck coach right now, with maybe like Aaron Glenn. I'm not a big fan on the coaching staff that they got there. And I do like Jaden Daniels. Like, I thought that what Jaden Daniels.
Where do you have Jaden Daniels in QE rankings? Curious.
Top of my head, like 10. That's just top of my head. Maybe
that's
down a few spots, but I'm very, like, I thought what Jaden Daniels did his rookie year was phenomenal, because that roster, in my opinion, absolutely sucked. But it was a lot of 4th down variant. There was just a lot of variance in that season, as good as he was. And like, when I just look at Washington's roster right now, like, it's looking like they're going to, with the Tunsil injury, they're going to have probably a below average offensive line. Like, the skill position guys, like, yeah, adding Diggs did matter and everything, but I'm not in love with the skill position guys. And then you would just look at the defense, and the defense is probably projected to be terrible again also. So that was a team I'm a little, just, again, this is slightly.
I don't see it. It's funny because this is like,
well, what's your case for the yes on them?
Mostly Jaden Daniels, to be quite honest with you. Like, how much I know offensive lines is still important. Tunsil, obviously top 5, maybe a worst top 10 tackle in the league, obviously worth a lot. But with Jaden Daniels, his scramble ability, his just mobility in general, I wonder how much it matters. And as a top 10 quarterback, I find it very hard to find many, just as a blanket statement. Obviously, schedule matters, a team around them matters. To find a team with a 7.5 win total, it just seems pretty low. Like their price, the market's pricing the Commanders as a below average team,
Yeah,
and they have a significantly above average quarterback. So I don't see it. I'm actually probably closer to 5 than 10 on with Jaden Daniels. I think he's very, very, very good. So overall, it's mostly just a Jaden Daniels take. I think Jaden Daniels is elite.
yeah. I mean, again, like I think I like Jaden Daniels, but Washington is the type of team that I look at and I'm like, all right, if Jaden Daniels is the 8th, 9th, 10th best quarterback, yeah, like I think he could carry them to maybe 8, 9, maybe a ceiling outcome of 10 wins. But like if there's anything that like if he plays as like the 13th best quarterback in my mind, like I just don't think they have a support system around him defensively, offensively, or coaching wise that could kind of make up. So like I just kind of think that he has to be special for them to be good. And then if there was one other team, I've been betting against this team very early, and I don't even know, to be honest, if I'm low on them versus market right now. It was Green Bay. Like I was getting like some of their unders at like when it opened at like under 10.5 minus 120. And I think it's like 9.5 plus 100 right now. So like I don't even think I'm that low on market compared to what I previously was. But I do think that the offense is going to be good. I love Matt LaFleur as a play caller. I think that he's always got the best out of his quarterbacks. Like just what he did with Malik Willis, what he did with Aaron Rodgers when people thought Rodgers might be washed up at one point, and what he's done with Jordan Love. But you have the Josh Jacobs situation. Like there's a decent chance he could get suspended.
How much does a running back really matter?
Listen, it's just the factors adding up. Like there's the Jacobs stuff. There's Tucker Kraft now saying that he might not be full go for the first 8 weeks of the season. There's the receiver room has lost a lot of depth, and Christian Watson, who's the wide receiver 1, is one of the most injury prone players in the entire NFL. It's the offensive line. Like, yes, is projected not to be good. Now, yes, like LaFleur has masked. I think LaFleur is like not as good as Shanahan, but like a Shanahan-esque guy that can mask the offensive line a little bit, or like McDaniel used to do. But I still think that the roster is just a little bit worse than what it used to be offensively, and they'll still have a good offense. But then it's the defense also. Like they're just so reliant on Parsons.
And he's not coming back till week 6.
Yeah, who's probably
case,
so like,
or best case rather.
That was even a thing. Like I like to bet like some game of the years, and Green Bay opened kind of high in some of these look aheads, in my opinion, to begin with. And then I was looking a lot towards like week 2 and week 3, week 4 games when if I was going to fade them on some of those when Parsons wasn't there.
You know, I've not been plugged in this year because of everything else we have going on. The only NFL take I'll have that I think a lot of Ravens fans like myself would have is I think the New York Giants are going to be a complete dumpster fire. I think, first of all, what team is more likely to lose their starting quarterback this year than the New York Giants? I mean, the guy literally, Jackson Dart lives in the medical tent. Second of all, like Harbaugh was kind of a mess for 5+ years with one of the best quarterbacks in the league under center. And now he takes over this terrible roster where, I mean, he's the favorite to be coach of the year, right? And I'm always like, oh yeah, you take these first year coaches, coach of the year. It's the easiest spot. But there's just so little there to support him. And he does not have the creativity to make something out of nothing with this roster. I did sprinkle a little bit of money on them at worst record 29-1.
It's funny that you mentioned that. And by the way, I have Chicago and Green Bay pretty equal to win the division in pricing. But it's funny that you say that because I'm literally reading a message that I sent to a guy that I do some work with, and he was betting Giants overs like pretty early in the process. And I didn't bet over or under on them. But I sent him a message literally Saturday, and I sent him and I said, hey, listen, I know you like that Giants over. I'll just say it now. I don't like it. I said all reports in camp is that Dart has been struggling a lot. I think their offensive coaching staff is one of the worst in the league. I'd say Dart is a massive unknown right now. The pass rush is elite, but how often are they going to have leads? The run defense looks really bad, and so do the corners. I'm also not sold that Harbaugh is not completely washed up as a coach. At the end of his tenure in Baltimore, these players seemed to hate him. I literally just wrote all that stuff out 2 days ago, which you were kind of just saying right now. So I don't know if we share a brain or anything, but
We do
yeah,
not
I'm
share.
with
I
you on that
look.
take.
What I know about the NFL could fill one corner of the empty library of what you do. But I mean, and if there's any sign that a guy is out of ideas, it's the fact that he brought a dozen freaking players from the Ravens over to the Giants, including Fa Lele, like absolute nut low players where he just, there's no other idea for him. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
And like
I
you
would be
mentioned,
out.
like that, like it doesn't even include the fact that the Giants, like again, you mentioned like their quarterback has the highest risk of injury, maybe in the league. Their running back has maybe the highest risk of
Yeah.
injury in the
Of
league.
of
And then
non-football injury, yeah,
and then
just
we have
getting
like
out of his Hummer.
this stuff of Malik Neighbors that he might not be 100% until we don't know when. So like that has been a team I've kind of slowly been getting more and more down on as the
Well, I gotta
offseason's
ask
went
you
on.
something kind of random, but then before we wrap it up, Henry is obviously a big Ravens fan. If you couldn't tell, he knows everything about the Ravens. Last year we were talking, and he gave me one of the most giga-brain takes I've seen in a while, and I was like, at first I just laughed, thought I was an idiot, but now I'm like, wait, maybe he might know ball. He said that in because I was already, running backs don't matter. They're worth like, prime CMC is worth a point, like tops. And he was like, no, in big spread situations, Derrick Henry is worth a lot to the spread because
The other team's just not going to get the ball back.
no, it's not even that. It's just he's so punishing as a runner.
Yeah.
They give up and they just like they don't want to tackle him anymore. And he breaks away for a huge gain. And I was like, he might be actually worth like more than a point in these very high. And I'm like, you know what? I kind. What are your thoughts on that? Is Henry actually step ahead here?
I'll add something to that. Derrick Henry, if you look at the splits of Derrick Henry's career from September to October to November to December, this guy, once the weather gets colder, has gotten significantly better. As and what are the theories on why that could be possible and just not noise? Well, once you get in colder weather, like there's just some guys that naturally don't want to be there and don't want to take hits consistently from this guy. Also, maybe later in the year, players get more injured, players get more fatigued. And you would think theoretically, well, like, what doesn't Derrick Henry get more injured and more fatigued? Like, I'm just convinced that this guy isn't from this planet. To be honest, like he is just every year people try to price in like regression towards him. Like, yeah, he's 30 whatever years old. This is the year, and this guy just I don't know, he's just different. So some athletes are just different, Derrick Henry's different. So to be honest, like that's another take I don't think's crazy. Like it could be in big spreads, people don't want to hit him. It could be in weather games, people don't want to hit him. Late in the season, people don't want to hit him. It's not crazy. And then like if like on the other side, like if they're a big underdog in a game, like once Baltimore gets down and they have to start playing in the shotgun more and the pass game, then like it's such a massive part of their game that's just taken away because you're not really going to throw to him and you're not going to there's just a certain type of style you have to play with him, and it's either a neutral game script or positive game script. So yeah, I could say it.
All right, that's enough Ravens talk. We got to get off the Ravens, or I'm going to start talking about second half rushing props.
Hey, listen, I love my live player props.
Chris, do you want to fire off one Jets question as a Jets fan just to get yours in?
Sure. I'll ask. Any chance we're saved and we get an Aaron Glenn firing before the season is over?
I mean, who are you going to replace? Who do you want to replace him on the staff? Frank Reich?
I wouldn't mind Frank Reich, to be honest with
A
you.
guy that's been failing at his, like he's old. Like he was a questionable offensive coordinator hire, Frank Reich, like a very questionable offensive coordinator hire. Listen, I think the Jets, if you look at their roster from removing quarterback, like their weapons aren't bad. If Sadiq, now he's hurt right now and he's going to miss a lot of the offseason.
I mean, Brees and Garrett are like quality weapons.
Yeah. Well, Brees got hurt. He should be fine.
Oh, that's
but
right.
like Omar Cooper, that first round pick, is now behind Isaiah Williams in the rotations. But their weapons are fine. The O line looks okay. They got some guys on deep. Like I don't think they're as bad as the defense that didn't have an interception all of last season. They have a lot of positive regression that should be coming back with like turnovers and stuff. So like I think their roster is like better than you would think with a team as a win total that low. And I also think that there's a chance that Geno Smith is way better than he played in Vegas last year. And it was just the offensive line was so atrocious that nobody could succeed in that situation. But with that said, I hate to break it to you, Flop, but you probably don't have a quarterback. You probably
Obviously,
very likely don't have a coach. And you definitely don't have a freaking owner. And that is probably one of, like, just organizationally, coaching, quarterback, probably the three most important things. You don't have them. Like, it's probably going to be another bad year.
Who would you target as a coach then to replace for next year?
Oh man, you really put me on the spot. I haven't even thought about the potential.
No, I know. Don't worry.
That could be in the coaching cycle next year. Give me like three. Who can you think of? Like three names.
Well, it's funny. I actually wanted to. I mean, I'm always a fan. I'm a huge Brian Flores fan, but I don't think that's what we want. We need you need an offensive coordinator, especially if ideally we're drafting like an Arch Manning type or something like that. I honestly liked Kubiak a lot, but obviously he got
Yeah.
hired. I'm blanking on that guy.
Yeah, you kind of caught me off guard where I can't even think right
No,
now.
don't worry
like
about it.
who.
We normally wrap it up with one last question. So I'll ask this one. Is it slight twist? We asked for those, deep in the prediction market weeds, we say like, what is the most costly mistake you've made trading PMs? We'll ask you, what's your most costly mistake just on a football read or betting football in general?
My most costly mistake is the day Draymond Green day. The news broke. I believe the Sunday night, it was Raiders Chargers Sunday night. It was the last NFL game of the season, and it was the Sunday night game. And it was that game that couldn't end in a tie. Like there was incentive for the game to end in a tie for the teams. And I believe the Draymond stuff broke at 8:22. And I have like Underdog notifications on and everything. And it just kind of passed by. I was so busy with like last minute props in that NFL game that it just kind of passed by, and I didn't go. Like people were posting about it in Discords, like, hey, I think he's Draymond same game parlay. And if I would have been alert and seen the Draymond stuff instead of just busy, and it kind of just, I didn't think about it, dude, it probably cost me like $250,000 with like some of the outs that I had. Like I could have done a lot of damage. So like that was the one that I lost a lot of sleep when I didn't get $1 on Draymond Day when he played the 1 second or whatever, intentionally fouled, and all of his props went under. That was costly. So that's probably my number one regret of all time.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up there. Thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Good insight on all the NFL. And I wish you best of luck this season. Hopefully you don't have to go back to touting. Hopefully you just make so much money in this season, but not from mag trading. Hopefully not.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good talking, man.